Okay, everybody, we're gonna get started. Welcome, everybody. If you need some Spanish translation, please click the globe button at the top, at the bottom, and then click Spanish. Hola, ¿cómo están todos? Haga clic en el botón del globo en la sección de abajo si necesita una traducción al español. Luego haz clic en español. So thank you and welcome everybody who is here today. My name is Daniel Talamontes, and I am the Junior High School Program Specialist for the DFYinSCV program. For those of you that may not know what DFYinSCV stands for, it stands for Drug-Free Youth in the Santa Clarita Valley. We are a drug preventative program that focuses on educating and empowering students to make good choices and healthy behaviors. So the curriculum teaches lifelong skills appropriate for each grade level to combat negative peer pressure and easy to remember strategies on how to say no to drugs, alcohol, and emphasizes the importance of mental health. But before we get into our topic of the day, I just kind of want to go over some necessary ground rules. For today's presentation, if you have a question and you want to be answered at the end of the presentation, please share it in the chat. If you prefer it to be more anonymous, make sure that you directly message the DFYinSCV host, which will be to me, and then I will share that with Detective Cacic at the end, and I'll make sure to keep it anonymous. Unfortunately, if there is any poor behavior, I will have to remove anyone who is being disrespectful during the presentation. But our topic this evening is Secret Stash: Where are my kids hiding drugs? And tonight's speaker is Detective Jeffrey Cacic from the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department Juvenile Intervention Team, which is also known as the J Team. So what the J Team does is they monitor and track juvenile drug-related cases. They target drug suppliers in the community and collaborate with the DFYinSCV drug prevention school programs to educate youth of the dangers associated with drug use. Detective Cacic will be presenting information on where drugs and paraphernalia are hidden, how kids are buying drugs through social media, and the secret messages behind emojis used by kids and suppliers. But without further ado, please welcome Detective Jeffrey Cacic. I'm gonna unmute you right over here. Perfect. All righty.
All right, thank you. Hey, everybody. So we'll go ahead and get started. Daniel, you want to go ahead and share my screen?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. Sorry about that. I'm going to make you a co-host, okay?
Sounds good. All right, is that good? Can everybody see that?
That looks good, Detective Cacic.
All right, sounds good. All right, guys. Again, like they mentioned before, we're going to talk about where kids are hiding drugs around the house, different emojis, different ways that they're hiding communication, things of that nature, as well as the various types of drugs and trends that we're seeing out here in the Santa Clarita Valley. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and get started. And I'll answer all questions at the end, so feel free to ask at the end. Save your questions, write them down, and we'll get to them at the end. One of the things that we're seeing a big rise of is opioids and prescription drugs. And in this picture right here, this is commonly what we see for a hiding area for heroin as well as for meth. You have the heroin kit up here on the top, and you have a meth kit down here on the bottom. I have some examples right here. It's typically sunglass cases. Inside, you unzip it, and there's a meth pipe that can hide perfectly inside there. This is what it looks like. A lot of times when we see these around, we know that they typically have drugs in them because they're hard and they can withstand a little bit of they're a little more durable and can protect the glass a little better. And inside here's another case. Inside this one here, we have a baggie. We have a little mini weed pipe right here. as well as a cigarette. And this one's a little better because here, it has a lot of little mesh pockets inside that can help hold the stuff in a little better than the other one. But again, this one's a harder exterior, so it helps protect from damage a lot better. Where am I? Sorry. This is commonly one of the things that we're seeing too is the rise of promethazine and codeine, and we'll talk about that down the road a little bit. But just prescription bottles in general is common. Even that picture right there is just a box like this, just a little flip top. Let's see if I can. There we go. That's better. This is a flip top box. This is common for us to find stuff in. I mean, here we have foil, we have spoons, we have straws, all this stuff. A little straw like this is common. Paraphernalia. This is actually a big pen. Here's a straw right here. And here's a McDonald's straw that we have also confiscated. And all this stuff is actual evidence that we've confiscated off of people throughout the course of our duties. As you can see, there's several metal spoons in here as well. So again, those are common because they're durable and they can withstand a lot of abuse and protect a lot of the glass products that are inside there. Even needles, it helps protect against accidentally poking or a needle sticking out, things of that nature. A big rise that we're seeing is fentanyl. Fentanyl is incredibly dangerous. It's a prescription drug that's being artificially made down in Mexico, and it's being brought up over the border. And that's how we're starting to see it is in fake or counterfeit oxycodone pills, or M30s that they're called. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But as you can see on the right-hand side right here, this area that I highlighted, that picture, that's a penny. And right next to the penny is actually a lethal dose of fentanyl. So it doesn't take much fentanyl to be a lethal dose. It's about 0.02 grams will be lethal enough to kill somebody. We're finding them in bags like this. The M30 bags, they're counterfeit oxycodone pills, and that's where we're finding them a lot. Like they'll crush them up, they'll snort them. They become very dangerous because they're not regulated. It's fentanyl mixed with like a placebo or a filler or a cutter. So a lot of times what will happen is kids may take one pill and feel no effects because it was mostly placebo. And then they'll take another pill, hoping that they could get high off of that. But in that pill, there may be a lethal dose because, again, they're not regulating it. So they don't know exactly how much fentanyl is going into one pill versus the other. This picture right here, kind of in the middle, that says heroin and fentanyl. That's the difference between a lethal dose of heroin and a lethal dose of fentanyl. So fentanyl is a synthetic opiate, and it's about 50 times more potent than heroin. So it doesn't take much at all to kill. In fact, every deputy at our station out here, at the Santa Clarita Sheriff Station, carries with them Narcan. And Narcan is a drug that'll counteract the effects of fentanyl in a person. And we've had to use it on citizens as well as on deputies. We were on a search warrant one time, and one of our guys, when we opened up a safe, there was fentanyl inside, and he started feeling the effects of it, started getting lightheaded. We actually had to hit him with the Narcan to keep him from passing out and to counteract the effects of the fentanyl. Some of the common street names that we see are Fetty or China White. We'll see And the emojis, the fire typically just means that it's good stuff. That's what they typically put with fentanyl to refer to it as being it's fire. It's good. It's that's how they typically refer to it as. Oxycodone is a pain reliever that I'm sure a lot of people have been prescribed. They look like this pill down here. They're a little more blue in color than this picture is depicting, but they look like this pill right here. They have M on one side and 30 on the other. A lot of the street names that we're seeing are Roxy, Blue Roxy, M30s, Blues, and fresh pressed is just an adjective that we see describing the fentanyl pills. So typically any of these names, the M30s, the Blues, fresh pressed, those typically associate with the counterfeit pills that we see. And those pills are fentanyl pills with the placebo or the filler, the cutter inside mixed in. And these are just common emojis, the blue circle representing the blue pill. And I'll talk about, and I'll show descriptions at the end as to how we actually go about, and I'll put into perspective on how those street terms are used. That's pretty much that. And like I said, you guys, a lot of people are prescribed oxys as a pain reliever for surgeries, for getting your wisdom teeth pulled, things like that. Even fentanyl. Fentanyl is a pain reliever. People can get prescribed fentanyl when they're in the hospital. But obviously when you're under a doctor's care, the doctors can monitor you. They can monitor your heart rate, your breathing, everything like that. And they make sure that the side effects are counteracted as well. Heroin's another opiate. So all three so far have been opiates. Heroin is black tar, just like this. It looks just like this. They're small. There's a nickel for reference. This is about commonly what we see. They'll be in a bag that looks like this. Sometimes they don't have to have the zipper top, like what people normally think of. This is just a normal sandwich bag. And what they'll do is they'll put it in the bottom corner and then they'll tie it up and then they'll rip it off. And so now you have a makeshift bag that's a little less detectable in this sense, because it's one big bag that they're breaking down into a bunch of smaller bags. So, and smack, junk, H, tar is the most common. Tar is very common in the street slang, street terminology. Chasing the dragon more or less refers to the high. It's when you want to get high, you're going to chase the dragon. You're going after that high again. And that's what that refers to. BTH is just short for black tar heroin. It'll look mostly like this, but we will find it in a brown powder form as well. Either one is common, but the black tar is definitely more common. Promethazine with codeine. Codeine is an opiate as well. So again, it's another opiate. It's a painkiller. Promethazine with codeine is a cough syrup. It helps coat the inside of the throat to help with the coughing and to make it less painful. This is very popular in rap culture. A lot of rappers sing about it. We see a lot of people mixing promethazine with codeine with Sprite or various types of lighter citrusy sodas. You'll see it either mixed in the bottle or in a like styrofoam cup, and they'll walk around with it in a styrofoam cup. They'll call it scissor, purple drink, tussin, robo, lean. Those are all very common terms for it. And it is purple in color, which is why the emojis are purple. But the baby bottle is another reference, because what we've been seeing lately is people will be buying filling the baby bottles and selling the baby bottles is like a one-time, like buying a bottle of soda, but they'll fill the baby bottles so that way you could just drink out of that, as opposed to out of a regular bottle. And we'll see guys walking around in public trying to drink this stuff and get away with it. Adderall is an amphetamine. It's to help. We see this a lot with kids. They're buying a lot of it, and taking it. A-Train is a very common name for it. That's really the only one that we see. Or Addy, Adderall, things of that nature. That's really it. But Adderall is not an opiate. Adderall's more on the opposite level. Opiates are depressants. They calm you, they relax you, they bring you down. Adderall is more of a stimulant. It'll elevate you. So the train emoji will be common, or the A-Train will be common together. Xanax, Xanny bars, ladders, bars, bricks. That's all very common for us to see. We see these all the time. They are scored like that, and they will cut them at the score and sell. One bar, one brick will pull out, or they could sell it in 4 pieces. The candy bar, because it's a common emoji because it looks like a Xanax bar closely, so you can see it that way. Or the ladder. The ladder is common because, again, the way the pill's shaped with the scores on it, it looks like a ladder. So we see it a lot. But those are 3 of the most, or 4 of the most common prescription pills that we see out here: Xanax, Adderalls, Promethazine with codeine, and Oxycodone, or Oxycontin. We see those mostly. But we will see. I'm blanking on the name. When it comes to me, I'll get back to you guys. Inhalants are common. We're actually finding these at a lot of the smoke shops. You'll see, so this cap right here will sit on top of like a whipped cream bottle, and then they take the CO2 canister, they put it in the cap, and they screw it on. And when they inhale it, it gets them a high. It helps restrict the oxygen going to the brain, and it gives them a high. So that's what we see. All the parts in themselves are not illegal. However, when you put it all together and the CO2, that's when it becomes illegal, when it's all put together. But we will see the frosting or the whipped cream being sold right next to the CO2 canisters, being sold right next to the cap that goes on top of it. Because, like I said, in itself, it's not illegal for them to buy or sell those. It's just illegal to manufacture together and then use it. Mushrooms, we're actually seeing a very big rise in mushrooms. I've been at Santa Clarita Station for almost 8 years, and this year alone, I've seen more mushrooms than the entire 7.5 years prior to this. Mushrooms are making a huge comeback. We're finding them both in the way that you see there as the mushrooms, the magic mushrooms, the shrooms, both in that sense, dried out and in a baggie like that, or with Oregon legalizing a lot of narcotics, we're seeing a lot of mushroom candy bars coming down. The clinical term for it is psilocybin mushrooms, and so we're seeing a lot of the psilocybin mushrooms being put into chocolate candy bars in a legal sense and being sold just the way that we could walk into a store in California and buy marijuana. You're starting to see that up in Oregon, that they could do that. So we're starting to see a little influx of that down here in the candy bars. but more the magic mushrooms are big. We're starting to see a huge rise in it. And people are microdosing it as well as taking a dose big enough to hallucinate. And if you're going to take a dose big enough to hallucinate, it takes about 5 grams of mushrooms, which is a very large quantity, but we're starting to see a lot of it. And with mushrooms, you could take it today. If you take 5 grams today, you can't take it again for about another 3 or 4 weeks. So the amount of mushrooms that we're seeing come down is very sales, like on a larger quantity, because mushrooms are dry and they will dry out fast. They don't look like your normal mushrooms that you'll find at the grocery store. They're long stemmed with the tiny heads on them like that. And they'll put them on pizza, they'll cook them on pizza, they'll do things like that to make ingesting them more fun, I guess. So the mushroom emoji is very common because you're referring to a mushroom. So, but yeah. LSD is also making a huge rise. We're seeing a lot of LSD come up lately. Acid tabs are the common street name for it. This emoji, because it's got the squares they rip off. You can see in this person's finger right here, their index finger, they have 3 separate tabs on it that they can take and for the hallucinogenic properties. This is exactly what they'll look like. They'll look like stamps that you could rip off just like that. And then you literally stick it on your tongue, just like a Mentos breath strip or whatever the breath strips are that you stick on your tongue. That's exactly how you do it. And then you just take it in and let the liquid absorb into your body that way. So they're very, very small. They're very tiny. They're hard to find. In fact, all these drugs that we talked about so far, with the exception of mushrooms, are very hard to find because it doesn't take much for you to get high off of. So they could hide kind of almost anywhere. So you have to really kind of look in a lot of small nooks, there's a lot of small crannies when you're looking for stuff. Looking for the paraphernalia may be a bigger indicator of narcotics around, as opposed to just looking for the narcotics in general. So having a good understanding of what the paraphernalia is may help lead to finding drugs around a child's room and things like that. Marijuana is legal now in the state of California. If you're over the age of 21, you could buy it recreationally. If you're over the age of 18, you still need a medical marijuana card to get it or to purchase it. But it is illegal for children under the age of 18 to possess, and it's illegal for people to furnish the marijuana to kids. We are seeing this constantly. One of my jobs is I run a diversion program for youth that get caught with marijuana on campus, and we send them through a diversion program through the city. The city puts on. It's a very good program, but I feel like I'm getting at least a case a day across my desk from all the high schools, the junior highs. We're seeing it down in the junior highs, very common now. Unfortunately, it's down there. And it's not just marijuana, it's the concentrated cannabis, it's the edibles, it's everything. And one of the issues that we're seeing with it, I'll talk about more in a minute because we have a slide that'll discuss it a little more, is the potency of marijuana is actually getting so high because we're scientifically engineering it to be more and more potent, that we're starting to see kids overdosing on marijuana. We haven't seen anybody die from it, but we are seeing kids overdosing, seizing, passing out, loss of consciousness, things of that nature because of the THC content that they're ingesting and they're inhaling in their bodies. Again, this is what marijuana looks like. It'll look like this in the bud form, or it could be just ground up, and it could look like nutmeg, or not nutmeg, like a leafy herb that you'd use for cooking, where it's ground up real fine like that. you'll find it. It could look like that too, but this is more the common way that we find it in bigger quantities. The common street names are we hear all the time: weed, kush, pot, bud, hash, grass. Those are all still very common. We hear them all the time. The emojis, the tree, the leaf, the green clover. Those are very common for talking about marijuana. But yeah, we are seeing marijuana all the way down at the junior high level. In fact, a couple months ago, a case came across my desk of a junior high kid selling marijuana to other kids at the school. So how he's getting it, we're still trying to figure that out. But we are seeing junior high kids starting to sell this stuff now. So it's becoming very, very prominent and very easy for kids to get their hands on. We have done several investigations and operations where we have gotten early 20-year-old adults selling to high school kids and just making a ton of money off of them that way. So it's getting very, very common to see that. Vapes are kind of twofold in that you have your nicotine vape and you have your THC vape. The THC vape can use concentrated cannabis, or you could buy it already in a cartridge, and what the kids are calling it is called a cart. They want a cart of, and that's referring to the THC, the concentrated cannabis. In this picture over here, you can see the oil running down. That's what the concentrated cannabis looks like. It almost looks like earwax. It's waxy in that sense, but it very much smells like marijuana. So anybody that's smelled marijuana before can absolutely smell the concentrated cannabis and know that it's marijuana. But the puff bars, those are typically and the ones that look like the puff bar over here, they look like a USB stick, or a thick, like almost like a thick stick of gum or a USB stick. So they conceal very well. And if you find it laying around, it may be hard to know what it is. But those are nicotine, and those are nicotine related. The state of California passed a law that says that you have to be over the age of 21 to purchase any nicotine products. So even kids under the age of 21, 18 to 21 year olds, or 18 to 20 year olds, excuse me, cannot possess those or purchase those. So vapes, again, this is what a vape pen looks like. Vape pen is a common name. NAC is if you look up NAC in the Urban Dictionary, for those of you that don't know Urban Dictionary, it's a website you could go to and you can look up street slang, and it's a very interesting website. But if you go to NAC or in Urban Dictionary and you type in NAC, it'll actually talk about, it'll say it's a term used in Santa Clarita for defining I'm going to pull it up real quick. See here. Right here, term used in SCV to refer to any kind of smaller vape, most of the time containing high amounts of nicotine, similar to a Juul, but nobody uses a Juul in SCV. So it's Canyon student. Hey dog, can I hit your NAC? Canyon student number 2. Yeah, for sure. I got you. So you can see that this is a common, even in Urban Dictionary, it's saying it's for high school kids in SCV to refer to a vape. And there's 2 different definitions, and people could go in and update those definitions as they see fit. So for this to be in Urban Dictionary means that some kids from Santa Clarita had to go in and put this in there. Cocaine. Cocaine is a stimulant. The street names, there's some of my favorite are the street names are in here: Booger Sugar, Nose Candy, I laugh at some of these. They're really funny, but I've actually used these in conversation when we've done operations and wanted to purchase narcotics from a dealer. When we find a dealer online and we want to purchase them, I've used all these terminologies before that are up here, which is why they're up here. But coke, blow, bump. Bump typically refers to single use. They'll say, "Can I get a bump?" And that just means like, a quick little hit of cocaine. Snowman, snow, booger sugar, nose candy. Those are all very common. The snowflake emojis are common in referring to it. The 8-ball just refers to a size. It's an eighth of an ounce, or 3.5 grams is what an 8-ball is. And the key refers to, again, a size. It refers to a kilo. I don't think any of the kids out here are buying kilos, but nonetheless, it's still stuff to look for. And the blue fish, we actually just learned about this one the other day. The blue fish refers to uncut cocaine. So it's very pure uncut cocaine. So, and cocaine is a white powder, almost like a powdered sugar or a flour consistency. That's what it feels like. I don't know what it smells like, so don't ask me. Methamphetamine is another stimulant. Meth is very common out here. Not with the kids so much, but with a lot of our, for lack of a better term, a lot of our regular customers that come in to our sheriff station through the backseat of our car typically have methamphetamine on them. Meth, crystal ice are common names. This is still the most common drug that we see out here with adults. Not so much kids, thankfully, but with adults, it's common. Because it's called crystal, you see the crystal, the diamond, or the crystal ball, the blue heart, or the ice cube, referring to ice. Any of that stuff is fine. It's very common emojis that we'll see daily. Secret stashes. All right, so we talked about the glasses case already. That digital pocket scale, we put that on there because we have this box right here. The front of the box looks like an iPhone box, but on the side it says digital pocket scale, and there was actually a scale for weighing out narcotics inside this box when we made an arrest. So pay attention to what the boxes say, pay attention to all that stuff, because it's a dead giveaway that this is not a cell phone box, but it looks like it if at first glance, which is the point of it. It helps conceal whatever they want. So and then that 8-ball there. So this is actually what we have for reference. This is how big that Altoid tin is, and this is how big that Altoid tin is. Very, very small. And this is about an eighth of an ounce. A typical sugar packet, when you go and buy coffee, a typical sugar packet's about 1 gram. So this is about 3.5 sugar packets worth of cocaine right here, or meth or heroin, whatever. But typically, like this one here is supposed to be was designed to look like cocaine. But yeah, we find the Altoids tins are common because, again, it's hard exterior. So any hard exterior like that is common to protect the contents inside. And if you're not looking for it, it's easy to overlook it. I think that's everything on this one. Here's actual. So both of these cases right here are ads that I came across on Craigslist. And at first glance, if you guys want to read these, they look like just standard basic ads. But the first one, that one that says roofing material, I purchased too much roofing material. I have the tar black type. Again, black tar, very good material and strong. So they're referring to the strength of the heroin that they're selling. Also selling glass material. So glass referring to methamphetamine. So I went on there. I read this, and I contacted this person. I set up a buy, and we ended up getting several ounces of meth and heroin from them. It was her and her husband running this operation, and so that was very common. That was an easy one for us. Same with the 2-foot blue pharma ladders. Pharma referring to a pharmacy. So this guy is selling 50 2-foot ladders. He's referring to the 2 milligram dosage of the Xanax. And with Xanax, it's a depressant, so it does help you relax, which is why it says right there, if you want to use them to make relaxation while you're climbing up your ladder. So it's very hard to read, but right away when I saw it, I knew it was he was selling pharmaceuticals. And so this one, we set up another drug buy on this one, and we arrested him off of that one. But I'm finding these ads on Craigslist. I'm finding them on Snapchat, on Instagram, on Telegram. Telegram's a new one that's coming out. It's becoming very popular. Telegram is all over the place with narcotics on there. I wish I could show you guys some of the stuff on Telegram, but we have some active investigations going on Telegram that I can't show you because I don't want to ruin those investigations. But that's where the big one is. Snapchat's huge. Instagram's big. I've set up buys through Snapchat and through Instagram and through Telegram. I've done them all so far. So, but with Telegram, that investigation is still ongoing, so I can't dive too much into that one. These are, let me, 1 second here. I got to get rid of this guy's username real quick. Hold on. I didn't want his name shown here. Let's see, I think I have another one. Sorry, guys, I want to show you this, but let me make sure I get the right one here. Here we go. All right. These are, this one right here, the online encounters. You see they're advertising right there on Snapchat, how much they're selling everything for. And all this stuff up here was carts, or so marijuana, THC, or they were nicotine products. And then so I was looking through all that stuff until I got to the bottom, and down here he's selling Xanax and he's selling cocaine. So, and you can see it says Coke with a snowman next to it. So there's a good example of the emoji that was being used. And it says a gram for $85 or $220, and there's the 8-ball next to it. So he's selling it's $220 for an 8-ball. So this was just on his Snapchat story or his Instagram story. That's where a lot of this stuff is. It's not on their basic the posts that stay around. They're always in the stories, and that's where we're finding them a lot. This guy right here, the middle one, is selling promethazine with codeine. He was selling that lean a lot, and you can see at the bottom, 3,500 a piece for the entire bottle is what he's selling it for. So he's selling them, at a high price, but he would post all the time too, where he was walking around with a cup, posting that he was walking through a liquor store, drinking his lean, drinking his scissor or whatever you want to call it. He was more or less flaunting it. And so we were able to, after an investigation, we were able to bring him down. And we got a bunch of various drugs out of his house. But this one, the big black one right here next to it is actually something that I found as I was going through Instagram and Snapchat, all those social medias. It's a 800 number that you could call. And what they do is they ask for your name, your location, and any medical problems, your name, your date of birth, your location, any medical problems. And they stay on the phone with you while you use your opiates, because opiates have such a high probability of overdose and dying, because that's what most of our deaths are in the Santa Clarita Valley. Our overdose deaths come from opiate use. So what this does is, if you call this number, they will stay on the phone with you while you use your heroin. And if you stop talking, they'll actually call the local fire department or police station, sheriff station, whatever it may be, and they will alert them that you're possibly overdosing, and they'll send the medical, they'll send the paramedics and the firemen and the ambulance to the house, to the location that you're at. This is just how, I guess, common and mainstream opiate use is becoming. The fact that we're actually, there's a nonprofit that's designed to assist with opiate use. I mean, I understand the concept, and I get the not wanting people to overdose, but I think it's kind of scary to know that service is out there, that there's people that'll just sit there and talk to you while you're knowingly using an opiate. So this is something to look for. This was a local teenager that advertised this. So that's what concerned me. All this stuff is local stuff that I've personally gotten off of social media accounts. So that the one that referred to the blue pharma ladders, this was our bus that we got off of him. I bought all these pills off of him. You can see the Adderalls, right, or the Xanax right here. The 4 scores or the 3 scores on it. So there's the ladders. That's exactly how it came. That's how it came packaged. Those are the pictures that he sent me when I verified my purchase from him. These gummies, see if I can zoom in and get a good picture for you guys. The gummies, this is what I wanted to talk about. If you could see the yellow one on the bottom corner here, it says 500 milligrams of THC inside. The body can withstand, a normal use is about 20 to 30 milligrams of THC. And what we're seeing and why we're seeing people overdose is high school kids, junior high kids don't know that the body can only handle 20 to 30 milligrams of THC. And so what's happening is they're taking the entire Starbuds gummies that you see there, and they're eating the whole pack. They're eating the whole pack of the birthday cake Stonios that are right next to it, and that's 500 milligrams of THC. So the THC content's very high in some of these, and they're not designed to be eaten the entire package in one sitting. I mean, the Stonios are 20 uses inside of there. So it's quite a bit in there. And if kids eat all that all at once, and they've never had marijuana before or THC before, it's an incredibly high dosage for a body to take with zero tolerance. So this is very common for us to see, is kids eating stuff like this. We've had at least 2 parents come forward of 12-year-olds that have eaten an entire cookie of 500 milligram THC, and they've overdosed. They've had seizures, they've passed out, they've lost consciousness, and they've had to get rushed to the hospital. That's just the 2 that the parents have come to us on. I know from the high schools, there's been a lot more of kids overdosing on marijuana and having to get rushed to the hospital. But I don't have all the official numbers on that as to how many we've had overdose on marijuana. It's too hard for us to keep track of. So common names that we'll see for drug dealer, a plug is the most common. It's the biggest one. A hookup, a pusher, a connection, a connect, things like that. But plug is the most common one. The emojis are very common too. The plug emoji is very common. We see it. You'll see a name and then a plug next to it. And if they're talking to that person, chances are that person's supplying them with narcotics of some sort, whether it be marijuana, even alcohol, nicotine. We've arrested several people out here. We've conducted several operations out here in the Santa Clarita Valley of adults, young adults, 24, 26 years old. They're almost like an Uber Eats of narcotics for kids, where they'll sell marijuana, they'll sell alcohol. If kids want a bottle of alcohol for a party, they text these people, and these people will go out and they'll buy them a bottle of alcohol, whatever they want, for a nominal fee. They'll buy them their knacks or their vapes, the things like that too. Whatever they want, these people will go out and get. I've even seen in one conversation with one of the guys that we've arrested was a high school girl asked, "Hey, can I get, I think it was like this vape, a bottle of alcohol. Oh, and while you're out, can you get me a Domino's pizza too?" So she requested this guy pick up a pizza, and he did. He picked up a pizza and he delivered it to her along with the narcotics or the tobacco and the alcohol that she ordered. So the delivery emojis, delivery services are we're seeing it all over. And they're starting to they're shipping the stuff too. They're finding ways to conceal it and ship it as well. So that's why you see the airplane, the package, things like that. Because they're advertising that they'll go out and they'll deliver, and it's easy for them, especially for like marijuana, things that these adults can readily access, because they'll just run to the store, pick it up, and they don't have to keep a big supply on their hand, which is better for them for detection, because once the delivery is done, it's really hard for us to prove it. So we have to really watch them, follow them, and all that. So that's it so far. That's what we have. Let me switch back to the other one. Yeah, so any questions for anybody? Catherine, I see a question from you, Catherine. What do you suggest I tell my incoming junior high kids to do or say if he notices drugs on or off campus at this age group? They could contact any teacher, have the teachers contact the resource officers at the school. The resource officers, where my desk is, I'm in an office with all the school resource officers. I sit right next to their sergeant. They come in every morning. I talk to them every morning. They call me if they have any problems, with narcotics or things like that. The resource officers are actually very good at talking with the kids and getting to know the kids. And usually if I'm looking for like a specific kid, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's Johnny over here," and they'll direct me in the right direction. The resource officers are pretty good. If we're investigating any kids at the schools, they'll tell us, they know where they hang out, where they have lunch, what classes they're in, all that stuff. So they're pretty good about assisting us with that. Any other questions? I know I went kind of fast. I'm really sorry for going fast. There was a lot of information I wanted to try to cover within an hour. So feel free to ask any questions. If
Yes.
there's any.
Sorry about that, Cacic. There's a couple questions. For anybody in the chat that wants to ask a couple questions, please share them in the comments. And then sorry about that.
Oh, you're all good.
There is also somebody asked about the presentation. They wanted to get the presentation because they want to know about the emojis that you discussed and talked about. For those that want those emojis and information, we're going to be having a handout on the DFYinSCV website. I'll put that into the chat box for you guys to rely on that for later. But please, if you guys have any questions, ask Detective Cacic. I can read them off for you if you'd like me to. So it's just a lot easier since I have the chat right over here.
Yeah, if you want, that'd be great.
Awesome. So yeah, please, anybody, please share your questions, any concerns you may have, any questions that you have for your students that are going into high school, middle school. Ask those questions, and then we'll answer them. And if you have any anonymous questions that you want to ask, you can send them directly to the DFYinSCV, the DFYinSCV host, and then we'll ask those anonymously.
Yeah, like I said, I was sorry for going kind of fast. There was a lot of information I just wanted to cover. And I know I feel it was kind of hard to take it all in. Just kind of throwing all that information out there, but I'm hoping that some of it was at least absorbed. And Daniel has my information. If anybody needs to reach out, get a hold of me, you can call the Santa Clarita Sheriff Station and just ask to speak to me. They'll transfer you over to my desk. You leave me a voicemail and I can, if it's something you don't want to ask right now, we could talk about it later. Any concerns, things like that. What my team does is we consist of myself who does the investigation. And I have 2 deputies that work on my team as well. Those guys are really the unsung heroes of my team. Those guys work really hard. I have the luxury of sitting behind a desk all day. Those guys are out in the field. Those guys are looking for the drug dealers. They're looking for all that stuff. When we do surveillance, I typically sit and they do all the heavy lifting. So I got it easy. Those guys work really hard, and I'm thankful that those guys are on my team. They're very helpful to us. We also have an intervention specialist. His name's Robbie. He helps if kids need to get into programs, or adults, rehab programs, things like that, counseling, alcohol, drug, anything like that, troubled youth. He has a lot of connections throughout the city, throughout, I think he even reaches beyond the city. He's got a lot of connections to help facilitate that, a lot of good resources, a lot of good information. So our goal is to hopefully get drugs out of the high schools. I know it's a impossible goal, but our goal is to hopefully make it hard for the drugs to get into high schools. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to do. And that's our main mission day in and day out. So
Detective Cacic, we got 2 questions. I'll start with the first one.
Okay.
The first one is, where do kids hide drugs? In their rooms, cars? As a parent, where should we look?
That's really, really hard to say because, like I was saying earlier, the drugs, the size of drugs for personal use is incredibly small. So, like, everybody's seen an aspirin pill. If you want to take an aspirin pill and try to hide it in your house, you'll be able to you'll have a million different infinite hiding spots throughout the house. That's why I kind of think if they're into more of the marijuana, things like that, you'll start to see more, bongs laying around, stuff like that. The velvet cases look like this are common because they're thick, they're padded. Weed pipes look like this. So I think this would be more common for a parent to find and a little easier for a parent to find because they're a little bigger. We got some pretty crazy ones in here, as you can see. So those are a lot more common for parents to find as opposed to the drugs. The drugs are harder, but like with heroin, you'll see a lot of foil, straws, the pens that you saw that were cut on both ends, straws. With meth, it's more of this is more common with heroin. a straw like this, and foil. The foil burnt like that, or the runs like this. Like this isn't marker. This is actually the heroin. As they lit it, it was moving around with the heat, and they were chasing it as they were trying to inhale. So that's how that works. Spoons that look like this, where they're bent, almost like when you try to dig into ice cream and you bend the spoon. That's what they look like. But you see this one has a brown spot at the bottom from the heat. So that's very common. You'll find more of the paraphernalia laying around as opposed to, I think, the drugs. Unfortunately, the drugs are harder to locate because they're so small, it's easy to hide. But a car may be a good place to start as well too, because like I don't know how many parents actually go out and look through their kids' cars on a regular basis. But a room seems like it would be more plausible to hide it in. So a kid may hide it in his car knowing that he doesn't do it at home and he only does it over at a friend's house. So why bring it in the house and why risk leaving it at home when mom's putting away laundry? And he keeps it in his sock drawer, and he doesn't want mom to find it. So he keeps it in his car because his car is always with him. So that'd be a good place to hide, where I think I would go if I were going to hide drugs.
Awesome. Thank you. Second question is Los Angeles Sheriff Department able to use drug sniffing canines? If so, how often are you able to use them at the schools?
We actually have the city out here, the city of Santa Clarita actually employs a canine dog. So the city of Santa Clarita contracts with the sheriff's department, and we have a canine deputy that the city has requested be assigned to our station, and he's actually assigned to our team. Unfortunately, right now he's out injured. His dogs don't get along. They got into a little fight with each other, and in him trying to separate the dogs, one bit his hand, and he's out with surgery, all that stuff right now. But when he's back, we have him at our expense, and he makes himself available. He believes in this as much as I do, as much as my team does. So he's with us whenever we want. He goes on these search warrants with us. If the school deputies want him at the school, he'll go there. He's willing to go wherever. So we have that when he's not injured. So when he comes back, we'll utilize him a lot, and we take him with us everywhere.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Another question. The question is this problem evenly spread among our local high schools, or are some worse than others? Are there trends at our local high schools you can point to for our awareness?
It goes through waves. Some weeks I feel like, Saugus has the most activity, and then I feel like it goes to West Ranch, and then it goes to Cacic, and then it goes to Canyon, and then it goes to Hart. I think it kind of just ebbs and flows. I think all in all, it's evenly spread throughout. I mean, when we've gotten these adults that have been selling to kids, they're selling to all the high schools. They're selling to them all. It's very common for them to sell that to everybody. So I don't necessarily think one's better than the other. I don't think one's worse than the other out here. I think it's very even. And then the trends at our local high schools, I can point to for our awareness. So I've been to a couple of the high schools and talked to the kids. They say that alcohol is still very prominent at parties, but marijuana is also pretty big at parties as well that these kids go to. But we have had kids, unfortunately, in high school die from overdoses of opiates. I think opiates are the scariest thing out here right now, and I think fentanyl is on the rise. I don't think we have a fentanyl problem just yet, but I think we have I think it's definitely on the rise. But in comparison to other cities, I think we're still in relatively good shape as of now. But it's something to watch for. But I have talked to high school kids out here that have said in high school they've done, they've run the gamut of drugs. One high schooler I talked to They said they've done cocaine, mushrooms, meth, fentanyl, and they overdosed on fentanyl, which is how I ended up talking to them. But marijuana, Adderall, LSD, like you name it, this high schooler has done it. So we're seeing everything common. We're seeing everything just kind of on the rise. So unfortunately.
Another question. Are the dogs checking at junior highs once a week?
So it's too hard for us to check the high schools or the junior highs, especially on a weekly basis. It's because the city wants the dog available for the city, including the high schools. So if our regular patrol guys do a traffic stop of somebody that they want the dog, they'll call them over. We have, I think, 5 special teams at our station that all focus on different stuff. And we all utilize the dog as well. He gets called out to everybody's various traffic stops. We have, so we just don't have the time or the resources to check the junior highs once a week. It's a lot. It would take us hours to conduct a check through the junior highs, through just one junior high, weekly.
I got one more question. Any trends at AOC?
I haven't seen anything at AOC, but also at the same time, we don't have school resource officers assigned to AOC. So I don't know, but I haven't seen anything come through my desk as being associated with AOC. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but AOC is a much smaller campus, a much smaller student body base as well. So it's a little more isolated, if you will.
Awesome. I think that was the last question. Oh, I have another question. Just got one. What about getting a second dog just for schools? Is funding an issue? That may be something people can contact the local school board for.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be something that they'd have to work out with the school board, as far as that goes. But there's still also legal issues that we have to abide by. Just because they're on campus doesn't mean that we could just walk up and search anybody. So we have to also abide by things of that nature as well. But it's an option that's above my pay grade. And that's something between people a lot higher up than me and the school board and funding and all that. So that's something that maybe can be brought up at a board meeting.
All righty. I think that was the final question. Does anybody have any other questions? Any more questions? All righty. All righty. Well, thank you, Detective Cacic. That was really, really great. It's like extremely valuable information for the parents in the Santa Clarita Valley. We know that drugs are a nationwide, epidemic, and we're thankful for that, that you are providing us with this information to protect our kids and our students. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. No
Awesome.
problem. That's what we're here for.
Awesome. To our participants, we hope this information is helpful. We do want to plug in a couple things for your students on campus, for your junior high and high school students. If you are interested in the DFYinSCV program for your students, it is a drug preventative club on campus where we do talk to them about the dangers of drugs, alcohol. We do partner with the Los Angeles Sheriff Department. So, they do come and speak with the students and participate with them to discuss the dangers of alcohol and drugs and so forth. We also talk about mental health. We do field trips that celebrate celebrate sobriety and so forth. So if that's something that you're interested, check us out during your registration. We will have a table there for the middle schools. High schools will be at the club where they at the club days where you can encourage your high school students to join. So if you are interested, you can always reach out to us at DFYinSCV.com. I do have that plugged in to the chat box as well if you are interested. Not only that, parents, we do or participants, we do have a workshop survey. It would be amazing if you would be able to fill out our survey. This will just only help out the workshops as a whole. We do want to be able to get as much feedback as possible so that we can only make this workshop better. So please give us your thoughts and your opinions on how this presentation went, and even throw some topics in there that you may be interested in hearing about. Last but not least, we do have a parent resource symposium coming up this September 23rd. It's going to be it's going to be called Chasing the High: Using Drugs to Cope with Day-to-Day Challenges Can Have Fatal Consequences. Learn about what prescription drug abuse, what prescription pill abuse is doing to kids, and strategies to help your child cope with many pressures that they face at school, in the media, and online. This will be held on September 23rd, Friday. I will put that information into the chat. It will be held at City Hall. Let me plug in all that information before you all leave, and then we'll jump right into closing out this presentation. So the website is DFYinSCV.com. That's going to be linked in there. Sorry about that. Let me put that in there. DFYinSCV.com.
Hey, Daniel, real quick. One thing that I recommend to a lot of parents too. I bought a home drug kit, like a home drug testing kit. If parents want to buy that and keep it around the house, and that way that the parents, you guys could be your kids' excuse as to why they can't use drugs. If that way your kids, if they go out to a party or if they go out there with friends, that they bring it up, your child could say, look, my mom or my dad, they drug test me monthly, whatever. It's just something that it takes the blame. I think it takes the ease of saying no off of them and puts the blame on you as a parent. And I don't care if my kids blame me for not wanting to use drugs. That's totally okay with me. I'd rather keep them safe and happy and healthy. So I have kids, and I keep it in their bathroom. So every time they're, brushing their teeth, all that stuff, they see it in there, and they know that I have it, and I'm willing and ready to test them at any point.
Absolutely, that's a great tip for the parents. That's awesome. But for everybody who needs that information in the chat, please utilize that for more information on DFYinSCV, for more information on the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, and just more information on what we learned about today. Please visit all those resources that we have. But I want to thank you all so much. If you would like to receive emails on upcoming workshops, and then also information on the topics that we talked about today, the emoji handout that'll talk about the drug codes and so forth, please drop your email, direct message it to me, so that it's anonymous, but please drop your email directly to the DFYinSCV chat, to DFYinSCV in the chat box, and we will make sure to send you all that information directly to your email. But we all thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you have a great evening. Bye. Take care, everybody.